Okay. Hey, and welcome to Games and Brains. This is our first of a regular podcast series where we talk about games and science. We both have many years of gaming experience. We're nerds, and we both at least passed our high school science courses, so that clearly, you know, qualifies us to speak on scientific matters. So we're
Absolutely.
highly interested in them. So whatever that counts for.
And we are your
But
hosts.
yep, I'm
I'm
Joe.
Tristan. That is Joe.
And this week one, we will be speaking on Overwatch. So, Tristan, you want to kick us off on that?
It's definitely not for the views. Um, so our topic today is basically about omnics and how that whole omnic crisis could potentially be something that happens in real life. Um, if you don't know, omnics are basically these sentient or now sentient machines. They weren't always sentient. Originally built as workers. Um, and it kind of evolved because of the program called this God program that kind of hacked all of them and turned them on humans basically. And we're going to discuss some of the possibilities that are happening in real life because of today's technology and where it's going. Um, and Joe showed me an article about China's workforce.
Yeah, so Overwatch, the Omnics started becoming an issue 30 years into the future, and we don't exactly have robots, especially not robots that can float and that are sentient.
Or transforming,
Yeah, they don't transform either.
or ones that can experience tranquility.
Um, but we certainly do have robots, and the robots are getting more advanced, and if you're into sci-fi at all, it's getting a little scary. There was a robot study going on at Berkeley, and they got the robot. It's like a toddler. It looks like a human too, and they pretty much like gave it like baseline goals, but didn't program it as to how to do it, and it taught itself how to stand up
That's
on
just creepy, dude.
on its own.
That's not okay. But well, okay, so the article is referring to that I was referring to originally. China. What do you remember? What year it was talking about, Joe? That they wanted that to be done by they basically want to replace their whole workforce with machines. Which I mean, that's
Mhm.
already kind of a thing that's happening today.
That's a lot of
Um,
people.
yeah, but I mean,
Amazon's doing
they're
it.
talking about everyone, not just
Hmm.
like literally everyone. Um, and they said they wanted to sink about 154 billion dollars into it or something. Um, so I mean, it's a thing that they're really looking into. Uh, but that just starts the whole starting to get more machines than men, and that makes them more advanced. They want to get them so that they can learn and make from and help with their mistakes and stuff. Because it's simple to have like a machine that puts certain parts together. It's programmed to do a very specific task. Uh, Robots start having issues when they have to make decisions and do things they weren't programmed specifically for. And with the advances that today, uh, machines that can really make decisions and stuff are really coming to light, and it's kind of scary when you get to it. Because if you look at like Overwatch, they just made these machines to do work, and then this rogue program. I don't even remember. I'm sure there's something. I don't know for sure where it comes from. Just called the God program. Um, Kind of rewrites them all. I'm not sure if that's what technically gave them consciousness, uh, but like it switched on their evil switch, it would seem, or more against humanity switch.
Um, they're starting to use the internet like us. There was a robot that learned to cook pancakes by reading a wiki how. It read a wiki how like anyone else. Like you're trying to change your car battery. Now robots can do it. But like a distinction I want to make about the robots of today and like Zomnics is the robots of today they don't look human at all. Like Amazon has factories and the robots are just forklifts. It's just like an AI forklift and it goes around moves pallets. And like that's what Tesla's doing. It's a self-driving car that should it's technically a robot. It's AI, but
There's
they're-
actually a lot of robots now. I don't remember when it was. It was after the that big nuclear accident from the in Japan. Really, like it was pretty recent. I don't remember how recent it was.
Was that the like flood thing?
Yeah, yeah, the big old flood.
Okay.
And so after that, they ended up having a contest of who can make the robot that could respond to that because radiation stuff humans can't, but robots could handle. So
Hmm.
they had this big old contest that people like NASA, um, I can't remember the other names. I have this. There's
So they
actually a
did the
documentary about it.
opposite of Chernobyl.
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, pretty much. But they were trying to. There's a big contest to see who could make the best robot. And some of the robots actually are pretty human-like. Let's see if I have a picture in here. Um, but like, I don't know if human-like is the word, but they have like they're bipedal, they have hands, um, and can use tools and stuff. The NASA one actually looks very human, just with a mask. I actually have a picture of it. That's with a NASA, uh,
Hmm.
one of the NASA robots. Although that one's meant for just space, like it's not. Its feet have like
Space
clamps.
robots, huh?
Yeah. But that one is interesting because it's actually the skin is meant to feel like human. It's meant to be able to work around humans, which is what they're starting to go towards. And there's also in that's the robots documentary by National Geographic um, actually shows some androids, which are human-looking robots, and those ones are definitely unsettling. Uh, just because how they look. I mean, they look like people if they didn't move, but when you see their gestures and stuff, it's more questionable. But like, I mean, like in Overwatch, there's not. I don't think there's any. At least not that they've said that are androids. Because like, I mean, Zenyatta, Bastion, they look like robots.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's how most of the robots that we do see today are. And the bipedal and
Well,
stuff's
there's
coming.
a there's a quote out there, and it's science follows art, because the art's always going to come before the science. So it science is only going to do what it's imagined, and art's like the human imagination, the other side anyway, that science isn't. So
We want good-looking robots if we're gonna be
yeah,
living around them.
yeah, if we're going to have so many.
Yeah, like have you seen it was also somewhat recent. They had those it's like one of those greeter robots. I want to say it was in Japan, but I'm not 100% sure about that. They're
That
basically
sounds
just
highly Japanese.
yeah. But it was just like a greeter robot. They're just kind of like they don't look at all
Like
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 people.
at Walmart.
Yeah, yeah, basically. It was like
Hmm.
some I think it might have been a robotics company. But it just kind of looked like have you seen Watch Dogs 2? Have you seen anything on that? There's like a I don't know how they're shaped like Daleks, like from um, Doctor Who, uh, and it actually like started running away. Like it like would constantly just leave the lobby and just go, and no one would stop or anything because no one like people aren't going to stop this robot that they think is programmed to do something, and it just goes away. And eventually, it like ran out of power, and they realized it was gone, went and got it back, but then it kept running away, and people were starting like all over Twitter and stuff were starting to freak out, like, oh, this robot let him live free and stuff. So I mean that sort of like humans caring about things like that is already starting.
Yeah, that's a part of Overwatch. Like the humans have to give the robots a certain level of compassion, or we just like deactivate the robots, and Overwatch wouldn't have happened.
Well, that's the point when like how far do you go before it's the machines are actually sentient
Yeah, well, I
and
mean, you could say how far do you go with the current very far left, like they're already heading in the aggressively accepting.
yeah. I think a lot of it is with kind of why we accept that kind of like robots is we have compassion for them. Like
Well,
you
we
see
have
Kilo.
passion for things that look like us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, for
if we
sure.
decided to look like us, it's definitely going to be easier for
That's
them
true. Yeah.
to come to power.
Yeah. Even if they're not 100, because I to me at least, I if I was gonna have like a robot companion, I wouldn't want it to look like a full-on human. I would want it to be like, you know,
I'd take a Tesla. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't mind that robot.
Yeah.
I
Um,
mean, you could like classify rockets that way too, because they're all like
Yeah.
pre-programmed. They're not
Talk
doing
like
the
a
same
talking
thing as
car. Well, I
like,
mean, AI.
yeah.
I mean, AI is the big thing, not so much the actual body. Like, I think definitely the bodies we could make.
Hmm.
How far they could actually go and stuff is still to be seen. But like I've said, it seems that the actual mechanics of stuff really getting down. It's the artificial intelligence where the
Hmm.
whole
That,
issue comes of like
that's the
sentience and
big part.
what makes you sentient. Because we don't even know what the hell like humans.
Yeah,
We don't
we
know
don't.
for sure what our
Yeah.
consciousness. We have an idea where our consciousness is, but
Hmm.
like I mean that's where the idea of a soul comes in. Which
We seem to be very connected with one another, nature, the universe,
mhm.
potentially other universes.
Yeah,
Like you never know. I mean, where does the definition for life begin and not life
and
end?
yeah. I mean, we categorize life as just not being dead. That's like as far as we know of what
So
life
are
is.
robots alive?
Oh, that's where the issue comes in. Like
If like a plant's alive and it's not doing anything, it's just over there photosynthesizing and getting pollinated by bees.
yeah, I mean it's alive by definition. And well, so okay, so people
Is a
always
virus
see
alive?
there's people they categorize it as like something in between. Like they don't actually have they have like a whole new thing about it. It's like a God, I can't remember the name of it, but it's not alive because it does. I mean, it literally just takes over things and uses. It doesn't have any self like replicating or anything like that. It has to go in and use other cells, most of them.
Are parasites aren't alive by definition then, if they're doing that. That's
Well,
just
parasites can parasites can produce by themselves.
yeah, but
They
they can't survive on their own.
no, that's true. But I don't know. It depends on the parasite. I think most of them would be considered alive, just like most bacteria would technically be considered alive. I think parasites tend to be more complex than typical bacteria. I would most of them, because there's some big parasites. I mean, you could call some people parasites if you really wanted to. But the whole like, I mean, once we get to the point of technology, which in Overwatch, obviously they got to it, where the
Hmm.
AI becomes so advanced that it would start to blur the lines. Like there's a thing called the Turing test. Have you heard about this, Gilbert?
No.
So it's the test to basically say that AI has advanced enough where people cannot perceive it as not being human. So they have a full disconnect. Basically, you're just listening to like a voice talking to you, and if you're able to tell that it's a robot, they failed the Turing test. But if you just cannot tell at all with having a conversation with this thing that it is not a robot, um, then it passes the Turing test. And we haven't quite got to that point yet in real life.
Didn't that come up in like a game recently where they were like showing the Turing test and like how close to real life their game was?
There was a game called the Turing test that came out, yeah, very
Oh,
recently. It's
that's
literally just called the Turing test. I haven't played it. I heard of it, but I knew about the Turing test before because I'm a technophile. I love technology stuff, and I think that prospects of AI are fantastic. Scary sometimes, but really cool.
very scary.
Yeah.
I'd say the limitation on AI is just how it accesses the information on the internet.
Well,
But it's like Google has an AI going on and it's just a supercomputer just running, gaining info, learning.
yeah, that's part of the thing. I mean, depending if, they're perceived as good or bad, depends on us really. Like we made them and they're gonna
That
learn
brings
from us.
that brings up another question. If your consciousness is uploaded onto like a computer, are you still alive? Or is that you, or is it just the computer? At what point does that become the computer?
I mean, I think technology right now isn't quite to that point. Once it becomes so alike that the human brain is, because okay, this is something I want to talk about a little bit before. So we always see like things as mechanical, but like our bodies are mechanical. They're just mechanical
Yeah,
as
it's
far
just
as
machine, and
biology.
our consciousness is us.
Yeah, it's like a
We're
biological
s-
machine though.
we're stuck in this contraption,
Hmm.
and we have to keep it going.
Yeah, and like because they actually wanted to build a supercomputer made of all organic material and basically feed it protein because the power consumption is super
Hmm.
lot cheaper. Um, but that sort of begs the question, is like what really is the difference between our biological mechanical bodies other than just the engineering mechanical? Um, and again, where are we going to blur the line in the future when the consciousness is roughly the same? Like,
Another question you're gonna have to ask is, does the fact that you're interacting with this world solely mean that you're conscious? Because no one knows what happens after death. You might just move on to something else. You might just become part of the world and still be conscious.
and what would happen to an AI that was, you know, what we would perceive as, fully conscious, like someone in Overwatch, like Zenyatta or something, like, would we? That I do wonder where religion would go in the Overwatch universe, because I know in some of the things like omnics and humans do have like relationships, like
Yeah,
actual
but
romantic relationships.
there was like that religious like scene in one of the cinematic shorts where
The
the
the Widowmaker one.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It talks. Oh God, I can't remember that. It's been a while since I saw that. It's
Yeah,
the
I don't remember. I just remember the robots had their own religion.
yeah they. It was all about that's what Zenyatta is part of. All about like that it doesn't matter what you are, but if you can feel. It's sort of that I think. I what is it? I thinks therefore I am. I think therefore I am. Is that the
Hmm.
thing?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, Sort of goes along with that. Like their religion is that I guess you would call it a religion. I wouldn't know what else to call it. Is that they're just as much human.
Philosophy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's pretty much what all religion is, more or less.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, it just kind of big. I wonder what like what.
See, now we're falling into the robots trap right here. We're having this conversation and we're just having pity, and before you know
Yeah,
it, we just
only pity
take
for them.
over, and
That's gonna be their downfall.
we're gonna have to form Overwatch
I mean,
if we're on this track right here.
but so it could go in a really good way though. Like it could be that sort
Oh
of
yeah.
like
It's like it's like
synergy.
any major decision in your life. You're not
Hmm.
quite sure which way to go. It could go positive or negative. You're just gonna have to do it and to decide whether or not it was a good decision later.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it could be really good. I mean, I honestly think that robotics and stuff like that, AI is the big next step of humanity. Because if we can get machines that can, I mean, obviously it's very scary for us, but if everything
Well,
goes right, it could be really great for us.
the only issue is you're eliminating jobs,
Yeah,
but
but you're also
that's
making
very
jobs.
short term. That's a very short-sighted thing
Yeah.
because the more jobs you eliminate, the less likely you are to actually need a job.
Hmm.
It
That's true.
enables you to be more human.
Could be like the Star
If
Trek universe.
yeah.
But I don't know, like I mean, if if it doesn't kill us, AI is going to be the like big
Oh
advancement.
yeah. It's definitely the future. Like they're starting to like take truck drivers out of their jobs. So it's just automated trucks.
Yeah,
Doing Uber's doing it. Google's doing it. Tesla's doing it.
that's why if you're going into like
Amazon, all like the top tier companies in America at least are doing it. And you know Japan's doing it because they're
oh
into that
yeah.
weird stuff.
I the oh God, what was I gonna say? I totally blanked.
Oh, I mean, my biggest problem with the whole Overwatch thing is the floating robots.
Wait,
Because
which
the
floating
only
robots?
way I could, like, Zenyatta's floating.
Oh
The
yeah,
Zombics
dude,
are
that's
float. All
his.
the robots in Overwatch are floating,
It's
except
true.
for Bastion.
May's
The only
little
way,
thing floats.
yeah, that floats. The only way I can conceive to do this, and this is a mechanical problem, which is the first mechanical problem we've arrived with
Yeah,
in this conversation,
yeah.
is magnets, like super balanced magnets, and the only way for them to move is like turn on and off certain magnets so they're like falling in a certain direction or something.
I
That's my biggest problem.
I don't
And
know
the
how to.
talking monkey. but evolution has its
Well,
quirks. Like
okay, the talking monkeys, that's more of a genetic
or gorilla.
experiment. That's biology. That's a bit different. There's a cat behind me for all the viewing pleasure. Um, but oh, I don't know how. I guess do you think the hovering has something to do with magnetism, or do you think it's
Other than like huge fans,
yeah, maybe
like
it,
with current technology anyway. But like magnets would be the easiest thing. The only issue is you'd have to roll out magnets in every city that you
yeah,
wanted to
the
have these
ground would have to
floating
all
robots.
be yeah,
But it would eliminate moving parts, which would make it decay at a much slower rate
yeah. I
if you're
mean,
just relying on a simple machine
having
rather
not
than
a
a
lot of
complex one.
friction. Well, what about um, like thrusters, like very, very micro thrusters that kind of just have some sort
Yeah,
of
but you
propellant.
that still requires fuel.
Yeah, but what if it's, I mean, they are
They
looking
could just
at
use zip lines.
electric, uh, I don't know why Zenyatta would float, to be honest. He has legs.
There's these Hindu in the Hindu religion, like the super extremist Hindus. They're not like extremist Muslims. They don't blow up your twin towers. They uh they like sit forever. Like they'll just sit their entire lives, or they'll do like this arm raising thing. I'm pretty sure that's Hindu, but that's my whole thought as to
That's
why
why they made him float.
Zenyatta would float.
But like, I just wonder if it's like whoever built Zenyatta, they gave him like the ability to float when they built him, or if he gained that ability later.
I would make the legs unmobile. I wouldn't even make it movable. I just add it for aesthetic purposes
Maybe,
and
I mean,
have him
he
float
kicks,
because
but
that's like the best engineering. Speaking from literally zero engineering experience, in my opinion, that because you have to worry about that
you just
breaking.
cut out a tiny bit. Um, yeah, now we went from AI to why why they would float. It's a
Yeah,
big jump. I mean, if there's floating sentient robots, then we're gonna have issues. I mean, I can handle the sentience, like, go for it, dude, but if they
yeah,
start
but the
floating,
floating.
I'm out. I'm
Yeah,
done. I am.
think of all the issues you'd have with like watch. You couldn't wear watches on streets. It'd
With all
mess
the,
up MRI machines. Your
you just
compass would always be messed up.
go by and some plates and stuff start hitting the bottom of Zenyatta and like forks and your pacemaker.
This also explains how Zenyatta can throw his balls if he's just using like an electromagnetic field
Yeah, just
to
hit,
just
yeah.
hold them in the air, just like
I
force
mean,
them.
that's the only thing I can think that would really make sense mechanically.
At least in today's world. But
Yeah,
then again, we have literally no engineering experience, so we
yeah.
have no clue.
But we do live around technology and know more or less what
We have
the most
basic
advanced sort of things are.
understandings of what is going on.
Yeah. I wonder if they have to replace their like batteries or if they're solar powered or if they ingest something.
Nuclear fusion,
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't
like
know.
mini Togamax in them.
They just eat chunked cars,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
that's how they fuel them.
again, with biology and mechanical, we
Yeah, if
just
they're
eat things
making
to fuel
computers out
ourselves.
of whatever, out
Yeah,
of
the biological computer.
carbon, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I I don't know. I imagine that'll I feel like the I don't even know what to call it. I don't even really know that there's much of a name for it right now. Like the biological me mechanics, I guess, or the engineering. Um, I think that's gonna be like the future, like way down the line, like um, where our machines are made of like not necessarily flesh, but biological materials like carbon and
the
whatnot.
only issue with that is they decay faster than like steel would. But I
Yeah,
guess We don't decay very
Yeah,
fast,
well, the
but
thing about biology
a
is it
tower will
refreshes.
stand for much longer than we will.
Yeah, maybe. But well, biology it refreshes
Natural
itself.
disasters. Yeah.
Like look at the jellyfish that lives forever. It just like whenever it's about to die, it refreshes its or it basically replaces all the cells in its body and like reverts to a younger age, like
We do that just at a
biologically.
much slower
Yeah, and it ends up
and it
catching up to us,
yeah, it's like a star eventually just runs out of stuff to do.
which is interesting. I wonder like I've always wondered. Now we go from machines to why people age, but like what in our bodies actually makes us start to decline as far as physical attributes go? Like, because if you think about it, except for some cases, and of course, mental capacities go down with the physical characteristics of it. But as far as like there's some really sharp old people out there, but like their bodies
Yeah.
aren't as fit as they used to be, just because of like their cells are starting to slow down. I don't know
Yeah,
what
that's
causes
that's
that.
one of the mysteries of science.
I imagine that's an evolution trait. We're not supposed to live forever because we're just supposed to reproduce and move on so we can increase our gene
Yeah,
pool and
but
make it.
you see all natural life die eventually. That's one of the recurring things in nature. Everything dies. Everything. It's at a different rate, but that has a lot to do with your mass. I'm not saying bigger people live longer because that's the opposite of what is actually true. I'm just saying like a galaxy lasts
A hell of a lot longer.
infinitely longer than a squirrel,
Yeah. But I
and
mean
a universe infinitely more so than even a galaxy.
the thing about that though is it's how it's perceived because I mean if from the galaxy's point of view it doesn't live
Yeah,
very long and we just live like to us it's
that
like an
that
ant not living
you
very long.
see reoccurring patterns in nature.
Hmm.
And one of the reoccurring patterns is a cell is almost exactly like a galaxy or a solar system or a universe. So where does one universe begin and one end? Is our cell just another universe? Are we in another giant being who is in
Some
another
sort of
giant being who's is that infinity?
that was a theory for a little bit, but I think they because of electron
I
microscopes
don't
and how
I
deep they
don't know
actually
how
look.
you would debunk that though
I don't,
still.
well, they can because you can look at like pretty on a pretty microscopic cell
You can't go all the
scale.
way. You can't go like inside of
Can't go
electrons
to
and
an app,
stuff though.
yeah.
You can't go. You can't go as far as you would need
Yeah,
to
but
discern if your cell is a
it
galaxy.
would have to be something really complex, and we know that cells are very not at all complex.
Yeah, but if you look at a galaxy, it's not very complex either. It's just stars spinning around a black
But
hole.
it's a lot of stars, and there's lots of things in those
Yeah,
stars,
but
though.
think about how an electron orbits the neutrons and the
They are
protons
similar.
in the
Yeah, how
nucleus.
the orbiting works. That's an interesting point. But going back to omnics, is I'm curious of what the political implications of having sentient machines would be.
Um, it depends if our political landscape changes within the next 30 years or not.
Let's just say, for sake of discussion, that it's basically the same political system that we have now.
Well, then the Democrats will be very for robot rights.
And the
Robot
Republicans would
lives
be.
matter, 2K46. And the Republicans would be very for controlling and um, maintaining the robot population to ensure it doesn't um,
Overrun
uprise and
us.
try to take over.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, that'll be the I don't know. I do wonder like a full-on Republican and Democrat stand on what that would be if that
Well,
was a
it could
thing.
also very well be the opposite because the
Yeah.
Republicans were very anti-slave
And
and the
like
Democrats were pro-slave.
yeah, and like pro-life and um
It it
it's
it really depends how the life is determined, and also Republicans are very anti-immigration, which goes against the pro-life stance,
Yeah,
which
and I
is
guess that would be
sexist.
a form of
But
immigration.
that's politics, and one doesn't simply understand politics.
Science can't explain politics.
No, no one can.
Not even politicians.
Trump might be able to, but that's just because
Just because he's not a politician.
he's doped up on life.
Oh man. Um, what do you have any idea what like the most advanced, like closest thing to artificial intelligence we have today, and how far it
Uh,
actually is?
Google's doing a thing with just a computer. There was that robot who taught itself to stand just by imagining it.
Hmm.
They're using the internet like we would like a normal, like that the internet to a robot is a human's logic and reasoning.
So do you think it'd be somewhat safe to say that within like the next 10 years, like AI is gonna be maybe not quite the capacity that human is, but it's gonna be getting there, like, pretty close?
It depends how, it depends, like I said, on how well it can respond to the information it receives. If it can like read a forum on Reddit and gain knowledge like that, then it will become very close. But if it's restricted to using coding and other simple programming codes to discern things,
Yeah.
it will have a much more limited understanding.
Because I mean, our brains, we comprehend so many different things at once. Like as far as visual, audio, we can kind of take in all the information around us. Like I don't know, well, then my screen, but I know what's right behind me that I can't see because I remember it being there, like object permanence and stuff.
And you have a camera
Well, no, I mean like
point,
like
point
that chair.
back at it.
That too. It helps. Or maybe the robots will just have tons of cameras just like sprawl over their head. Who knows?
Well, I think robots have spatial reasoning now, if I'm not mistaken.
There is it's called
I think
Chimp. It
the cars, they have to have spatial
Yeah,
reasoning
yeah, that's
to
true.
drive.
Hmm. But there's a robot called Chimp. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's CHIMP. It's an acronym. And it basically has this rotating eyes, more or less, that shoot just a bunch of lasers. That was a cat. Just a bunch of lasers, and it builds a picture of its surroundings. And so it does it over and over again and continuously builds the picture as it moves along. Um, and so it can remember what's behind it because it builds this big old map and can see itself where it is. Um,
Are
so
they using the maps or are they just using it to discern what a robot can understand?
it's for the robot's movement. So it takes in that data and sees objects and avoids them basically. Um,
Hmm.
like how they had it set up was like a lot of different I don't know what to call them, like blockade looking things. Um, and it was for that competition after the nuclear accident that I was talking about. It's a big robot though. It's massive. I don't remember it probably weighs like 500 some pounds. It's so freaking big. It looks pretty cool though. Wouldn't want to fight it.
Yeah, that's another issue with robots. They have to be very heavy to operate on a human-esque level.
Yeah, at least as far as the materials we have now. What's the
Yeah,
lightest but yet strong? Titanium, maybe carbon fiber.
carbon fiber
They
probably.
uh,
But this is where our lack of engineering knowledge fails us.
there is there they've been using it to make body armor and stuff like that, or at least they're working on it. It's like this
Or is it
metal
the
and
dragon skin?
I don't remember, but
Heard something about like dragon skin and it's supposed
that
to be
might be what it's called. But
strong as diamond or something.
yeah, it's like some kind of cloth and basically has like interwoven some sort of metal, and so it's really tiny. So it's like super little, almost microscopic. Like you wouldn't be able to see it. Like you couldn't see my like its individual fibers in my shirt, where it's really tightly woven. Um, and it's strong material. Like they're looking at it to build body armor out of it. They might have already have. A lot of the body armor nowadays is like
Yeah, the military definitely
ceramic.
has it. I'm on the Wikipedia, which is a great source for
Best
all of your
source.
information. But we need this info on the fly, so
the best that can happen? I mean, honestly, Wikipedia
Um,
is not too bad.
yeah, they started working on this back in August '07, and
Is it called Dragon
it
Skin?
they dismissed it. Yeah, it's called Dragon Skin. They dropped the test in November 13th. So
I wonder
apparently
if there's
it
some sort
wasn't.
of different thing that they're still going along with, like something with the same idea,
Oh, I'm sure they're always trying to like reduce.
innovate.
War is always going to be the push for research. You can see that with the the moon race or the space race in the Cold War, and all the guns and medicine and other innovations that the world wars
Mm.
caused.
Yeah, I mean, whenever there's competition, which sadly war is a big competition because that's what gets the big
Hmm.
people's sites. I mean, like entertainment and stuff now is pushing a lot of things, which I love. I think if we can do it as far as entertainment and like actual science instead of trying to kill each other, if we can advance that way,
Well,
it's the best.
I
But
just don't think the politicians think on an entertainment level. They're thinking on the war level.
that's the thing, yeah. So when we do have those big jumps in advancement, it does seem to be after Great War or like a soon to happen war.
Well, we're already pushing towards robots and wars because right now most of the combat going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, is with drones.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. Yeah, if whenever World War III, God pray that it doesn't happen, but it's very likely that when it does happen, um, it's gonna be fought mostly with machines, uh, and it it's gonna have. I don't know. I kind of wonder if that's gonna reduce the amount of actual humans that are dying, or if it's gonna increase it. Because you'll be more focused on more or less
The
killing each other's technology rather than the troops. But
Well, I think the biggest focus is who's going to launch a nuke first, because the biggest
yeah,
focus in the First World Wars was who's going to mobilize their army first. Now we're not mobilizing huge swaths of people. It'd be who's the first to launch their nuke,
yeah. Hopefully it
or
doesn't.
who's the first to start civilian missile strikes, or who's the first to do this or that.
Yeah. I mean, again, with the technology, it's uh, just how damaging things can be. It's scary. Like I mean, like at World War One, Joe and I were talking about Battlefield One and the World War One stuff recently, because that game's pretty awesome. Because we are
Highly
to
recommend
video
it.
games, 10 out of 10. But
Eight and a half out of 10. But
yeah, 8.5. Um, but I mean, the weapons back then were I mean, honestly, they're garbage compared to what we have today. Like we have like some sniper rifles that can shoot I don't know how many miles, but several miles accurately. And back then
mhm.
you were lucky if you hit like, you know, broadside of the tank.
I
Uh,
wouldn't say that. We had better. We weren't shooting
no,
like
yeah, we were.
muskets
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It was it the guns that had in World War One are closer to the guns we have now than they were to the muskets during the Civil War
Yeah.
and Napoleonic uh, army era.
But so okay, so let's see. World War One ended in 1918. When do you know when World War Two started?
I have Google, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Because okay, so what do you think would have been the most advanced weapon in World War II, other than the
We had
as far
atomic
as
bombs.
well, other than the atomic bombs, like
The tanks had increased. There was definitely bigger, like faster rounds. The planes were better. There were. I think the biggest increase is the number of people who were involved, and that's probably the biggest advance in weaponry because um, in that era of war, we weren't using. We were discovering the potential of the machines to just devastate people, but we were using the people as the weapons instead of the weapons as the weapons.
yeah. I mean, like I said, the next war is gonna be fought with it's gonna be weapons against weapons. Like
Mm.
like in people behind a screen. I do wonder when the point is that they're gonna just let the AI take over and handle their or somehow handle their combat operations. Because I mean, think about it, that's gonna be more efficient having a single uh, mind directing
A
all these things
hive
instead of
mind.
having, yeah, like a hive mind. I
Just
mean,
send just send the Donald Trump subreddit over there.
yeah.
They're on the same page.
I was actually it's interesting because humans this was actually from I think I want to see it's game theory on YouTube. They were talking about how the internet is basically the equivalent to a hive mind. It's the closest thing to a hive mind as a central consciousness that we have as humans today, which is really I mean it's a good thing because we wouldn't know I would have no idea what was going on like in any part of the world if it wasn't for the internet. Like it's this sort of thing where we can all connect, and it's kind of the closest thing to a hive mind we have. But when like there's an AI that could basically take that one step further and more or less be in the mind, like yeah, we like or being completely hooked up all the time, like yeah, we can be on the internet all the time, but like as soon as we leave it, it's separated from our brains. We're not like plugged in, so to say. But if there's an AI
Some
that
of us are.
was,
Some of us definitely are.
that's true. And there might be a point when we all have microchips in our head and can Google stuff with blink of the eye. But I imagine I do you think that self-modification is going to go anywhere? Like,
I really hope not. Well, at least not the current self-modification, because that's just like horns and like nose removal.
well, I mean like not
Like,
aesthetic,
you
like
mean like a head implant? So instead of like using your phone,
or
you just like think and then you know.
exactly, or like a bionic heart or like bionic limbs to
I think
increase your
I think we've had bionic hearts for a little bit.
yeah, but I mean
Honestly,
like where someone would choose to replace their perfectly good heart
they're
with
they're
a bionic one.
definitely they're definitely just temporary until you can get a transplant.
Yeah, but do you think it
But with 3D printing and the ability to print literal biological material like that, yeah, that stuff is definitely coming. Like the first brain implant is probably less than 25 years away,
there
if
was
I
a
had to just guess.
there was a he's a technology prediction guy. I don't know the term for that. Um, that works for Google, and he's been like I want to say 80% or a little higher accurate throughout his career, and he's had like over 100 different predictions or 200-ish. And he predicted that by a certain year, like not long, like I think it was like 2050, maybe before, like 2030-ish, we're gonna have basically the technology to stop aging with like nanotechnology. And
Hmm.
he's again, he's been very, very accurate. So,
Is that like the combination of nanotechnology and stem cells? Or
uh,
is it, because I think you can't, they're working with the two combined.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I mean, stem cells are definitely a good thing, and if we can, or definitely a good start for that. But if I don't know if he was referring to technically like actual nanomachines or nanomedicine, because they are two separate
There,
things.
it's definitely medicine. I heard a thing on the Rogan podcast, and they're taking viruses and changing them with, they're attaching it to a nano medicine, and they're injecting people with this virus, and it's a new form of medicine.
That's crazy. I was actually
Yeah,
thinking about because
just
there's
reprogramming the
some
viruses.
viruses like in Fallout. There's a virus called the forced evolution virus, which basically goes in and alters your DNA. And if that sort of
Hmm.
technology could become available where we could go in and that I mean that might have been what he was speaking of where that would stop aging because you go in and basically tell your cells, hey, you don't need to start killing yourselves yet. You'll be fine. And I mean you just basically be alive indefinitely. There's a book. I don't know why I always think that stopping aging is an interesting idea. I mean the ethical.
Because you don't want to die.
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
human. We're all human. No
Yeah.
one. None of us want to die.
Yeah. Well,
Well, you're an animal. Animals want to live as long as possible.
yeah.
And
Um, no, go ahead.
it's because we don't know
Hmm.
what death actually means.
I do wonder what a artificial intelligence that was as human as possible would think about death. Because humans, there's a lot of religions that perceive us as having a soul, or there's an afterlife. But if you're a mechanical construct, I mean,
Well, AI is like human logic and reasoning minus the emotion.
but what if they get to the point where it basically is emotion, though?
Well, then we have the issue with robot uprisings and the terror of all human.
I don't know. I think emotion would.
One area we wouldn't run into is like if we didn't program them with laser eyes, they wouldn't just be able to program laser eyes into themselves. So if we program them the correct way, the risk would be very minimal.
There's that program that what they are should and definitely are doing their best in the mechanical industry for starting the humanoid robots as the rules that they have set in. It's like uh, not hurting humans is number one. Number two is following orders. Number three is something else. I don't
I'd
remember
make
for sure.
one following orders.
No, that's
That's
the
the
bad idea.
mistake they made.
Yeah.
That's that was the first
But
mistake.
yeah, it's basically said that they're very inert thing is to not harm humans, like even if
Do you
they have a
hear
direct
this?
order.
Do you hear this, Elon? First program, follow orders.
I don't think
You, it'll
yeah,
limit
it'll be
the
fine,
issues you
trust me.
have vastly, I promise you.
But then, I mean, the war AIs, you wouldn't want that, right? I mean,
Well, if we're sending robots to war rather than humans, I think it's better because you're not wasting human
oh
lives.
no,
And
yeah, absolutely. I think so. If we can actually get to the point where we're just fighting wars based on,
this is why the Sith is actually in the right because they're sending droids to fight humans. At least until the storm troopers go over the Sith.
yeah,
The
the separatist.
pre Sith stormtroopers, that's bad on the Jedi. Darth Vader should have gone over there.
Oh, Darth. But I, I, I strive to hope for a future that there's basically like just like a some continent or some area that we can just basically send, troop robots to fight each other, and whoever comes victory, like, wins the battle, like, so that humans can get off their vicious destruction things that we seem to need um, when fighting a war, and it's like, I guess the need to conquer. I don't know why.
I think we haven't even began to see the potential of war. I think World War One and World War Two were great atrocities, but we have yet to see the full potential of today's technology and the killing potential of current machines,
Yeah,
including the robots.
I mean, I think we need to advance as a species
I definitely agree.
before we make machines that are more advanced than us. Although
With
maybe they'll whip us into shape. Who knows? They'll be like, "Hey, you guys are idiots. Here's what to do." And we're like, "Oh shit."
if they ever find a way to make discriminate nuclear weapons, like they program in
Like a specific like
like
race or
terrorists, and it only kills terrorists, that's going to change the landscape of the universe.
yeah, oh, I mean, that's definitely like a possible technology thing. Like, what if you had some sort of
If you if you found a biological disorder within a certain genetic pool, and you were able to exploit that through a biological
like
weapon,
a
you could
virus of some
definitely do
sort?
it.
Yeah. Or like if you could ID everyone and have like little nano machines or something like target
Oh,
specifically those
so we're just
people.
getting Sentinels. Which, don't get me wrong, No Man's Sky's a terrible, terrible, terrible game. But I don't think Sentinels are exactly a good idea.
We don't condone No Man's Sky here at Brains and
Weren't
Games.
Sentinels kind of bad games and brains? But weren't Sentinels kind of were I mean in Star Trek weren't there little like police bots kind of bad? I mean, they were at least annoying to Captain Kirk.
Uh, I don't think they're technically bad ever. They're just I think Kirk was just like not
Yeah,
following the
Kirk's
correct
like,
law.
yeah,
Like they're programmed just to,
he's a weird cookie.
hold the law.
Those are the law enforcement we actually need.
Non-discriminatory robots? Yes. Yes,
We
I
need one of
agree.
those as
We need
president
one
too.
that uh,
We need a government. We need a
yeah.
government robot
That's actually
because
really good.
the current one we have is corrupt and fails in all the human ways you can.
But that would actually be an interesting thing, just having like, robots then so they can,
You just take all the Twitter polls possible, and that's our democracy.
Oh, that reminds me of the AI with Twitter. Have you heard of that? They put an AI on Twitter that basically, learned from what it was tweeted at, and it started saying some really, really weird and racist things because of the internet.
Hmm.
Like
So
it,
it's like a parrot.
yeah, basically. It,
There's a raven smarter than a parrot. A raven will learn to talk much quicker than a parrot will.
hmm, interesting.
Interesting fun fact.
Yeah, ravens are pretty cool. I like ravens. That's so Raven.
That's
That's
2005 for
that's a
me.
2005 reference.
2005 is a terrible year. I don't know if that was within the year 2005, but it was definitely within the theme of 2005.
I That sounds about right. This is like the 2000s-ish.
We have
The
Google.
I mean, whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be the early
That's
2000s.
so
Um,
Raven
I I am interested to see because I,
Day.
I was playing Titanfall yesterday, Titanfall 2, and
Yep, it
I
was from 2003 to 2007. So right in the
boom right
middle
in there.
with
Good job.
2005. Yep,
Know that you're That's so Raven facts.
yep. Got to be in the ball here.
But in Titanfall 2, like I was playing as a robot, and then I got called in, my Titan, and then got in my robot. So I was a robot in a robot. I think that's an interesting.
We failed to bring up one of the biggest, most used robots within Overwatch, Diva, and her
Oh,
mech
Diva's
suit.
mech, huh?
Yeah,
That is an interesting one. Although
what a,
I don't believe her mech has any.
it doesn't have
It
AI.
does not have
It
AI.
definitely has UI,
Just like
and
a
it's definitely
it's
advanced.
just a machine, or like a
Um,
like a controlled weapon of
I
war.
think I think mech suits are the next logical step in warfare.
Yeah, there's actually a
But
company.
if we're going away from that as a whole. The trends, we're just bypassing that whole step and
Mhm.
sending robots suits.
Probably, I would imagine it's cheaper that way to have it. You know, I think price is a big thing. Building big
Yeah,
ass robots is
I really think mech suits would. The only thing about a mech suit is it has the human in it, so it's not going to make errors that a robot would. But
yeah.
if you program the AI in a proper way, it wouldn't matter. It'd be
Well,
better than a
I mean,
human.
I would hope that eventually we get to the point where it's more like, oh, we don't want human error. We're gonna have AI that
But
doesn't make these.
there was recently a study. I don't know who did the study. It was in medicine, and it was who can uh, diagnose you better, a physician or a pre-programmed like AI interface. The physician was up to 90% more accurate than the just AI. So and I'd say war, certain aspects of combat, a human is still vastly more uh,
Superior.
it's superior. It's the human being is a superior combat tool to a robot because of all its senses.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, is like as what humans have done is they have technology as they uh, they use it like, and that's a very blunt way to put it, but like we advance because we have technology to help us. So we have our basic human, you know, superiority more or less, and we use the technology to just enhance that. So like, as far as like diagnosing patients and stuff, I do think the future of medicine is going to be us having a little like a healthcare professional having a little AI on its shoulder that fact checks it and can do quick scans and stuff like that. I think that
That was one of the things they mentioned that in that article. Nurses being replaced by an AI.
I don't know if they should replace nurses with it, but I think they should
I
have it
dis-
as a.
I very much agree that they shouldn't replace
I don't
nurses with
think.
AI.
Yeah, I think that it should be a tool that they have available to them to help. I think it's sort of those one of those things where it's like a partner, like an AI partner, rather than, having that take the reins. Because I mean, if you can take that 90% accuracy that doctor had and then take the whatever, I know you didn't mention how accurate the AI was, but have that sort of just extra boost, I mean, that's only going to help. Like if you have a little fact checker that always is like, okay, this is this, or can
Oh yeah,
quickly like because machines are really good at taking a lot of data at once that humans cannot.
but the the only issue with machines is the way they're set up. They can't innovate. They can't adapt. But that's one thing that AI is trying to fix.
Yeah, I mean, once AI gets to the point of that, is where we're gonna have our omnic crisis.
Or just live in a more holistic society with a more balanced lifestyle than
That's what I'm hoping for.
wavering away our entire lives.
I would imagine within the next 10 to 20 years, we're gonna have some
Oh,
technology
there's gonna
that we
be
just don't expect.
oh for sure. But the initial start of the robot workforce, there will be much revolt from the public based off of
Yeah,
job security and loss of jobs.
yeah.
But a robot could easily replace logical positions like secretary, like anything in accounting, like like just basic bookkeeping,
It's all
even
just
some of the
the
higher up
data
account,
crunching stuff.
anything to do with just numbers, anything to do with just regurgitating facts. You could easily replace those jobs with robots. The issue is the current expense. It's
Yeah,
probably cheaper just to keep your human secretary
for now at least. I do
for
think if if we get to a point where we have, all those, like accounting, the non-decision making, which I'm sure accounting definitely has some decision making attributes
the
to it, but
higher up accounting anyway, but
yeah,
like some
but like just
lower.
the basic accounting, yeah. Um, bank telling, stuff like that. Like I do think if we do get AI to basically take over all those jobs, I,
It takes the corruption out of the system. It's
yeah.
just
Well, and it's gonna,
it's an even playing field for everyone at that point. It's indiscriminate.
yeah. Um, but like at first there's gonna be the issue that, like you said, people aren't gonna like it, not having their jobs taken by
Not
robots.
one
But
bit. And
eventually, that could be really good for
we're never going to have
humans.
banking like that because the banks are where the money's at, and the money is where the politicians go. So we, at least how the current system is set up, we will not be having the AI banking we should.
Well, if it makes it more
But
efficient, then they might.
but Bitcoin is coming up, and Bitcoin can change that
Oh man.
in an instant. Bitcoin's definitely interesting. It's like it's now its own currency. You're not just like mining it. You're like it's worth X dollars.
Yeah,
And then like Bitcoin debit cards and stuff. I have a book. One sec.
I never fully understood Bitcoins. It's from what I understand though, it's basically the non-money money, where it's like a almost universal money.
It's called the Internet of Money. Like the Internet's universal. This guy's a Bitcoin um, like expert. His name's Andreas Antonopoulos. I probably just really butchered his name, but it's just about Bitcoins.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Do you know how long we've been running?
I have no clue, but it's got to be near an hour.
Yeah, I think we could start wrapping it up.
Yep. Well, I mean, I think that's it for the first podcast. We covered everything and more. We, as you can tell, will be bantering about random stuff
We'll
and
get our thoughts.
political
We
opinions
stayed
and
pretty well online. I'm impressed about that. I think next time I'm interested to talk about the effects that video games have on the brain. So we might get
I
into
would
that a little bit
agree.
next time. Might be a
That
next
is
good next topic.
that's right up our title's alley.
Yeah.
It is the title's alley
And if you are watching this on the good
perfectly.
old YouTubes, which is I think the only thing we're gonna post on it first.
or the iTunes,
Please
or
like and subscribe, right?
maybe if you found this on Pornhub,
I,
well, YouTube.
I
I don't
mean,
know
if
why
it
I
gets
would be
on
on
there,
Pornhub. Just
I won't judge it.
yep.
Well,
Any viewers,
thank you
any
for
viewers.
joining me, Joe.
Yep,
And we are your two hosts. And maybe next time we'll have a guest. Who knows?
yep. I think a guess would be a good next step.
Yep. Well, good night, everyone, or
Yep.
morning, depending on when you
See you
watch
guys
this.
later. Yeah, it's not like you might.
Nope.
It might be afternoon, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So good
It's
afternoon.
high noon somewhere in the world, ladies and
You're
gentlemen.
not wrong,
It's high noon.
unless it's like not actually 00.
Yeah, there's just
And
noon.
it's not. Yeah.
All right. Peace out.
Yep. Call that a show.